Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies.
The big monsters with big green eye.
Because it was not the same one, that's fine. But when Lee Zeldin had something to say, all he had to say was it was a different Jeffrey Epstein.
My nose! What's happened?
He admitted that he did receive donations from a Jeffrey Epstein,
who's a doctor, doesn't have any relation to the convicted sex trafficker. Unfortunate for that doctor, but that is who donated to a prior campaign of his.
When you search FEC files, and that's what I had my team to do, I texted them and I said, listen, we're going up. They are saying that she took donations.
Right, but someone might say, well, your team should have done the homework to make sure it wasn't the convicted sex trafficker.
Welcome back to the Jay Revardo Show, and do we have a show for you today? Do we? Of course we do. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about Representative Jasmine Crockett and her lying lips, because when she gets pressed by Caitlin Collins on her friend Plaskett and Jeffrey Epstein, a known pedophile, when she's asked to be accountable, she has a full meltdown on CNN. Caitlin Collins also goes deeper and asks about Hakeem Jeffries and why he didn't censure Plaskett for using her last lifeline, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, while she's on the stand for tips on what to do next and what questions to ask James Comey. We have all that and more on the Jay Revardo Show. Roll it.
Lawmakers rejected a resolution to censure Democratic delegate Stacey Plaskett. She represents the Virgin Islands for texting with
I'm gonna break this down short and sweet, real simple, really quickly. Okay, so Virgin Islands, she's from the Virgin Islands. Jeffrey Epstein's island was on the Virgin Islands. She was the person that controlled the things that happened on the island. And the Virgin Islands, she would be the person to let things get through if things had to go through on the Epstein Island. The Virgin Islands was the island where the Jeffrey Epstein Island was located. The Jeffrey Epstein Island couldn't exist without Plaskett.
Jeffrey Epstein during a 2019 hearing that featured Donald Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen. These were texts that were among the 20,000 pages of documents the House released last week, and they show that Epstein texted Stacey Plaskett saying, quote, Cohen brought up Rona, keeper of the secrets. Plaskett responded, quote, Rona, and then asked, quick, I'm up next.
Miss Rona, what is Miss Rona's position?
Rona Graff is the Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his.
A minute after Plaskett wrapped up her questioning there, Epstein texted her, quote, good work.
Okay, so that right there is where everything should have stopped, is where everything should have ended, and all of the congressmen and women should have came out against Plaskett. And instead of that happening, she came to her aid in defense. If you don't believe me, well.
Committee Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas. And thank you for being here, because now this clock has started with the president signing this bill behind closed doors tonight. The president said tonight he thinks it's going to end up being really embarrassing for Democrats. Are you worried that it's going to be embarrassing for
I'm not worried at all.
Go ahead, tell her.
I can tell you one thing. I ain't never worried about my name being in the Epstein files. So that's one thing that we can talk about.
I can tell you one thing about it. I can tell you why. How come when some black women, I want to make sure I say that, when some black women get an attitude, it's out of control of their neck. I can tell you one thing. I can tell you they start doing that. That's the sound of someone on the defense. Immediately she got on defense, like the Eagles or the Lion. That sounds like the group chat is nervous, you're nervous, the whole Democrat Party is nervous, your Snapchat is nervous, your Instagram is nervous. You guys are looking a little nervous.
Number two, for me, is not partisan. As somebody that worked in the criminal justice system, I understand what it is to sit across from a victim. I understand their stories, I understand the trauma, and I understand the lasting effects. Wrong is wrong, right is right, and I think that that is what we are missing in this administration.
Notice how she tries to divert the attention away from the actual issue at hand right now.
We need to make sure, because it wasn't just one man. This was a system, a sophisticated system that was set up, and so we need to make sure that there are no other victims going forward.
One Democrat who's been on defense over Jeffrey Epstein is Stacey Plaskett. She represents the Virgin Islands. She was texting with Jeffrey Epstein the day of Michael Cohen's hearing. Her questions pretty closely followed the text messages between the two of them to ask about Rona Graff, Trump's longtime assistant. You were defending her today, or in recent days, yesterday, and you talked about Republicans taking money from a Jeffrey Epstein. Here's what you said.
Who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly. Mitt Romney, the NRCC, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio.
Perhaps you haven't been telling the truth, Pinocchio.
Perhaps.
Oh, but I have. every single word.
Okay, hold that thought, because what you're about to see is the real-life Pinocchio play out in real time on CNN.
You mentioned Lee Zeldin there. He's now a cabinet secretary. He responded and said it was actually Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, who's a doctor, doesn't have any relation to the convicted sex trafficker. Unfortunate for that doctor, but that is who donated to a prior campaign of his. Do you want to correct the record on the people?
I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. Just so that people understand, when you make a donation, your picture is not there. And because they decided to spring this on us in real time, I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen, because I knew that they didn't even try.
The most egregious and narcissistic thing I ever heard someone say, when she states the fact that she had her team Google it, she just wanted to see, she wanted them to see. That means she's teaching them a lesson, not to mess with her. Don't spring anything on Jasmine Crockett.
To go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled, and that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies.
Hey, really quickly, I want to stop and play this clip that I found of Jordan Peterson explaining what the real life Pinocchio is, which it just so happens that Jasmine Crockett is actually playing the role of the real life Pinocchio. Listen.
Wolf, fox, and the cat that are trying to corrupt Pinocchio are terrified, because they get like they're criminals, they're petty criminals and deceptive and so forth. But when they get a look at who's pulling their strings, it's enough to terrify them. And so Pinocchio goes through a series of temptations of various sorts, including a Freudian temptation. And the Freudian temptation is to remain weak and sickly instead of becoming a real person. It was that he's offered false celebrity as a way of solving his life's problems, so he's offered the opportunity to become an actor. And what that means is a deceitful fake who's constructed a persona that makes him appear far more valuable than he really is.
Because it was not the same one, that's fine. But when Lee Zeldin had something to say, all he had to say was it was a different Jeffrey Epstein. He admitted that he did receive donations from a Jeffrey Epstein, so at least I wasn't trying to mislead people. Now, have I dug in to find out who this doctor is? I have not. So I will trust and take what he says, is that it wasn't that Jeffrey Epstein, but I was not attempting to mislead anybody. I literally had maybe 20 minutes before I had to do that debate.
Yeah, but people might see that and say, well, you're trying to make it sound like he took money from
I did not know.
A registered sex offender.
No, but I literally did not know. When you search FEC files, and that's what I had my team to do, I texted them and I said, listen, we're going up. They are saying that she took donations.
Right, but someone might say, well, your team should have done the homework to make sure it wasn't the convicted sex trafficker.
Within 20 minutes, you could not find that out, not from just doing a quick search on FEC. So, number one, I made sure that I was clear that it was a Jeffrey Epstein, but I never said that it was specifically that Jeffrey Epstein, because I knew that we would need more time to really dig in.
Well, Stacey Plaskett was texting the Jeffrey Epstein that we're all talking about. You voted against the censure for her to remove her from her committees. You know, we pressed the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, on this last night. Maybe you don't think she should be removed from her committees.
Correct.
But why do so many Democrats seem unwilling to say it's inappropriate to be texting with a registered sex offender about what you're going to ask a witness at a congressional hearing?
So I'm not going to necessarily say that that's the case. Now, this is somebody that was a former prosecutor. Now, I haven't sat down and talked about all the specifics of why Stacey was doing what she was doing. I know that when she got up and she spoke, she talked about the fact that this is one of her constituents. At the end of the day, what I know of prosecutors is that they are typically talking to co-defendants. They are typically talking to the people.
But you know what? They're usually not phoning a friend with a convicted pedophile.
That have the best information. And what you had was you had the former attorney for the president that was sitting there. And honestly, we knew, or she knew, or at least Jeffrey Epstein presented, that he was very cozy with the president. He had more information, registered sex offender or not. The bigger question is, why is it that the president was so cozy with a registered sex offender even after he ultimately ended up with some of his convictions? And seemingly, he had absolutely been on the plane with him. We know about the birthday card. The bigger question is, why is the president of the United States not the one that is in the hot seat for his relationship, instead of us saying, oh, you know what, we're going to take her off of her committee because he decided to text her. Stacey didn't initiate that chain. Jeffrey initiated that chain, and she took the information. Just like if somebody texts me.
Yeah, but she was responding and saying, you know, what are you talking about? Quick, I'm up next. And then her questions were about Rona. But do you think that was inappropriate? I mean, would you text with someone who is a registered sex offender about what you should ask?
I honestly know that he had never been convicted of any federal crimes at that time.
But he had been in jail already.
He had been
got a
in
plea
jail.
deal.
And my deal is this. The Republicans are constantly texting with a 34-count convicted felon. So if it's okay for them to text him at any point in time, then I'm not going to say that that's right or wrong, especially to the extent that you're talking about kicking someone off their committee. Were they sexting? Was it a matter of her being involved in the pedophilia? No, it was nothing like that. She was trying to understand. Let's say Jeffrey Epstein said, you know what, I have these pictures, these salacious pictures, because I know that the president got down and did these things. Do you think that it would be inappropriate for her to ask about those things if he said he had personal knowledge?
I think the context matters, but obviously it seemed like he was helping her.
Oh, right. And that's exactly the problem. Jasmine Crockett jumps off of the ledge and she starts to blame and project Donald Trump and the Republican Party when the problem is actually inside of her own party. That's the issue. Jasmine Crockett does not and cannot look in the mirror and tell herself what is going on with herself. And that actually the Democrat Party cannot do that at all. Every single time that there is a problem in the Democrat Party, every time that they're blowing up and self-imploding on the inside from the inside out, then they pull the tool. If it's not the Epstein files, then it'll be something else. Saudi Arabia. It'll be him flying and receiving a jet. They're going to make it about accountability on another side when they should be accountable. They're going to make it about credibility when they should be credible. And when your story only survives with the help of Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted pedophile, but when you're interviewed and you're held accountable and you're questioned on that situation, and your responsibility is to hold your constituents accountable. But instead, what you do is you project onto another subject. It was a hoax to create leverage in the Democrat Party. It collapsed and they fell on their face. This wasn't about the victims. This was political theater, and they were unveiled. If you're new here, hit the like, subscribe, and share button. And until next time, be strong, be courageous, be vigilant, and pray without ceasing. And as always, I love you, and you know I do.